headquarters. This will now take some time because it will be open to the general public as well. We've seen an outpouring of grief, politicians cutting across party lines, also grieving quite openly. This has been a monumental loss for the BJP and for her colleagues in other parties as well. So get us all the details, tell us the kind of arrangements that have been made and the kind of reactions that are coming in from the other political parties as well, who all are expected at the Lodi crematorium when the last rites are performed.
Well, you know, the first person who we know for sure will be present when the last rites will be performed will be the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. We understand he would be there when the last rites will take place. As far as the BJP headquarters is concerned, Avantika, it was Amit Shah and JP Nadda who in fact had reached there early morning to make sure that all the preparations are being made. Now, the mortal remains of Sushma Swaraj will be open for the common man, for BJP supporters and for others to take a glimpse. What we are expecting is that the body should be reaching the BJP headquarters in another 15 minutes and then people will be allowed to get a last glimpse of their beloved leader. What we are expecting is that her mortal remains would be moved by around 3 o'clock from the BJP headquarters. They will be taken for the final rites. Then we understand that thousands of supporters have already reached. We are expecting thousands more to reach, and we did see the kind of outpouring of grief. You know, people were running with the ambulance. We expect that as soon as the ambulance will be reaching the BJP headquarters, we'll see that it will be the turnout will be in huge numbers. Thousands of BJP supporters expected. We also expect senior BJP leaders also to be present to get a last glimpse of their beloved leader.
Absolutely. Geeta Mohan is also there with us. Geeta, who traced her journey very closely when she was the foreign minister. Geeta, just how many ministers and politicians now do you have who exhibit that kind of empathy, that kind of compassion, addressing reporters by their first names? It's wonderful, isn't it? And Sushma Swaraj indeed was one of a kind. Is that why the Prime Minister is today openly mourning and grieving her loss, the kind of work that she put in as far as the foreign policy of the Narendra Modi government is concerned in his first term? She always worked in the backdrop, despite being such a tall leader, despite being a stalwart of sorts in the BJP, allowing her Prime Minister to be in front and taking on the overseas commitments.
Well, Avantika, not just the Prime Minister, the country mourns today. A few examples. I have covered foreign policy for years and years and have met with many external affairs ministers, many who led the Ministry of External Affairs, but none who got so much of love and respect from fellow ministers and officials. There is one instance that I'd like to tell you. He's now an envoy in one of the countries, but was heading one of the divisions at a point when India was battling the issue of terrorism in Pakistan, and she'd gone to the United Nations, made her speech and had returned, and then had a meeting with some of the officials. This official had gone up to her and said, "Ma'am, what a beautiful speech it was at the United Nations." And he tells me she told him that "Ye tumhara moh hai mere liye jo tum ye bol rahe ho." Speech theek tha. That's and he said, "I have never come across somebody who would speak like this, who the warmth she exuded, the way she spoke to her officers. If you see the kind of messages that have poured in from all the envoys, all the Ministry of External Affairs officials and all the Indian missions abroad, it's not just a message of condolence. There is a personal touch to every official who's put out a message, every embassy, every mission that has put out a message. The outreach has been massive. Last 5 years, Sushma Swaraj's outreach to the foreign world.
It takes a lot of courage, isn't it, Geeta, to work in the background. And then, you know, you are tirelessly working on making your Prime Minister, that was Narendra Modi's foreign policy, a roaring success. I mean, it's not the personal rapport that you are striking with your counterparts abroad, but ensuring that the Prime Minister and the nation comes first before you.
Well, Absolutely. We know that there has always been this talk about how Prime Minister Narendra Modi and then External Affairs Minister, the late Sushma Swaraj, really did not get along, that there was a political rivalry between them. But when it came to taking on the job of External Affairs Minister, she lived it, she owned it, and she breathed it till her last. She was absolutely into her job. She knew the command structure. She followed instructions as was given by Prime Minister and the Prime Minister's office. And then when she needed to, she advised them in time to say, well, this is something that one should wait for and see how things pan out. We've seen that happen in many occasions where the Prime Minister's office was to take a call, and she did, given her opinion, and that opinion was accounted for. So a very crucial factor also was the fact that she not only was a very passionate, deft politician and leader, Avantika, she was a brilliant woman. She was a brilliant person who understood foreign policy and learnt on the job as to the niceties, the little details that foreign policy really contains. There are very many areas that many external affairs ministers have been seen to falter on, but she was absolutely accurate on many counts. On some, we have criticized India on its foreign policy, but she is not alone to blame on those decisions. She was a part of it, but what she also did very well was justify and explain why that policy decision was taken, and that's why I always called her the troubleshooter on foreign policy. The annual conferences, after taking all the decisions, and if there was some foreign policy mistake that was made by the government, at the end of the day, it was Sushma Swaraj who sat, held her head high, and responded to all the questions of the foreign ministry beat reporters, taking on any and every question and explaining and justifying exactly why those decisions were taken. That justification and explanation can only come on such sensitive matters, Avantika, from a brilliant person such as Sushma Swaraj, and that she handled very well. There are areas where we can say that we always wished it were different. We always said that Sushma Swaraj could have interacted more or given interviews, but that's for journalists to always ask. At the end of the day, she knew what she was doing. She knew the narrative building, she knew the messaging, and she knew how she needed to do it. The way things changed and the way the ministry was perceived, not just in India but across the globe, is only thanks to the then External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj. She turned things around, not just when it comes to the outreach, but how she approached various subjects and issues, and how she approached and looked at her own fellow colleagues. You have to give it to the woman when it comes to engaging her own officers. These officers could have a laugh with her, could share their problems. She knew everyone in the first
and that was shared by the present foreign minister, isn't it, S. Jaishankar, who also had shared a similar sentiment. But as Geeta, we speak of Sushma Swaraj's magnanimity, her benevolence, her accessibility, what about the fact that she had this unique ability to take on her detractors, her opponents quite fiercely in Parliament, yet at the same time, she had a wonderful relationship with them. Take, for instance, Sonia Gandhi, the UPA chairperson. I still remember the time when she was there for the oath-taking ceremony in 2019. She very graciously, greeted Sonia Gandhi, who also reciprocated. And this is the same two ladies we are speaking who had contested against each other in Bellary in Karnataka. And isn't that amazing about a person to let go of the political rivalry and ensure that, the personal relationships stay as strong as ever?
Well, not just Sonia Gandhi. Look at how her relationship with Sheila Dikshit.
Yes,
she was competitive. True. She was passionate. She was even fierce. But she was not vicious and vile. Avantika, she was not vicious and vile. That was a different era of politics. She represents the old school. She represents putting the facts on the ground, speaking, keeping the decorum in mind, and not being vicious or losing respect for your opponents. The opponents have to be respected and have have to be told what the policy decision is in a certain manner, and that's what she did. Every time she took the floor, she ensured that there was crispness, there was an attack at the opposition. And if you see the old speeches of hers in Parliament, you'd see how she attacked and tore apart the opposition. But not once did she lose decorum. That's old school politics, Avantika. We miss it badly, we miss it terribly, but that's the beauty of Sushma Swaraj, and that's what India will miss, the beauty of how she handled opposition. During her tenure as External Affairs Minister, there were many questions opposition raised with regards to India's foreign policy, India's Pakistan policy, and India's Kashmir policy when it comes to the Hurriyat. She responded to all those questions, attacking the opposition, but also tearing apart the opposition, absolutely tearing them to bits, but also kept the decorum in mind. Never once did she lose respect. Never once did I see her smirk. It is really great to engage with somebody as brilliant as that, and that's why Sushma Swaraj was missed in the Ministry of External Affairs.
Geeta, thank you so much for